everyone, it's Erin from Sweet Spice Skip. Today we're going to be making blueberry scones and we're testing out my new camera. This is one of those recipes that you can make either with a mixer or by hand. I'm choosing to use a mixer so I don't wear my hands out. But I have here my dry ingredients all whisked and set aside in this bowl. I have cold buttermilk, I have fresh blueberries, and I have my butter in the fridge until we get started. So if you're doing this by hand, you just mix your butter in here and go ahead and start breaking it up with your hands. But I'm gonna dump everything in the mixer and we're gonna do it that way. Let's get started. In the bowl of your stand mixer, add all of your whisked dry ingredients. If you scale these out in advance, you should keep them in the freezer so that they can stay cold. Set your bowl aside, and then you're going to add your cold cubed butter. Next, you're going to add the paddle attachment and start the mixer out on low speed and crumble the butter until it's about chickpea size. If you don't have a stand mixer, this is a recipe that you can easily do by hand. Just takes a little bit more elbow grease and a little bit more time. In a bowl, you'll just simply rub the butter in to the flour until it's roughly chickpea size, and then you'll mix your wet ingredients in by hand. Alright, so my mixer has been running on low speed for 3 or 4 minutes now. And my butter chunks are similar to biscuit or maybe a little bit smaller size. You can see just about like that, chickpea size. Scones are basically just biscuits but with sugar. They're very, very similar, maybe a little bit higher hydration depending on how you make your biscuits, and they're not laminated. So this should look like very similar to when you make biscuits or pie dough. So the next step is I'm going to add my buttermilk slowly. It's also similar to pie dough in that if you don't need all of your liquid, then you don't need to add it all. The 1 cup measure in this recipe is just kind of a guess based on, it just changes based on how big your butter chunks are and what temperature your mixture is at and all of those things. So I'm going to start by adding a little bit, just kind of stream it in on the sides here, and then I'm going to, if I need it all, I'll need it all. Then I'm going to add my blueberries, and then we'll press it out and we'll get to the next step. So the worst thing you can do to a scone is overmix it, similar to a biscuit. You just don't want it to be tough. And if you develop too much gluten, your scone will surely be tough. So my mixture is pretty wet, but it's gonna be great. I added a little bit of whole wheat flour to this, which I'll put in the recipe at the beginning of the video. So you'll be able to have this, it's just like a little grayer than maybe it would be normally, but we're making healthy choices today. So I added some whole wheat flour, and I am right now just kind of getting the rest of the flour in by hand so that I don't overmix it. Kind of see what I'm doing here. And I'm gonna add the blueberries. They're big, fat, juicy blueberries. So I am gonna try to work them in by hand, and if that doesn't work, then I'm going to just put them back in the mixer. Seems like we're committing to doing it by hand because now it's on the counter. Got this mixer out of the way. And again, it's a pretty wet dough. And once we get our blueberries incorporated, yeah, that looks pretty good. We're going to press it out right now, and then we're going to freeze it for a little bit so that they can get nice and flaky. And while they're in the freezer, I'm gonna turn on my oven so that it has time to heat up. And there we go, scones. So one thing you should absolutely do before putting a sticky dough on a counter is put some flour down, which I didn't do, but now I have done. So that way it doesn't stick, right? Because it's sticky. So what I've done is I'm gonna press it into this little round here. Look at that, it's beautiful, little baby. You can also press it into a square if you prefer. I just kind of like the rounded edges. I have here lots of dough on my hands, and I have a little container of buttermilk. There was buttermilk in the dough, and I just saved a little bit of it, and I'm gonna brush it on the top of my round here. I have sugar in the raw. Any turbinado sugar will do. And I'm just gonna put that on the top. It's a little bit messy, but it's nice and crunchy. Cool. That's our sugar. And then I have my bench scraper here. You can use a knife. I just don't want to do it on the counter. And I'm gonna divide this into 8 triangles. And if you, again, you like a square scone, you can press it out into a square and cut it that way. I like triangle scones. So here we are. Oh my God, look at that. Those thick blueberries, we got the sugar on the top. You can't really see any huge butter chunks left because we got it nice and mixed in there. That'll mean that it's gonna be nice and flaky, but it won't have any big gaps in the dough. So the next step now is I'm gonna take all of these, I'm gonna separate them onto a cookie sheet or a sheet tray, and then I'm going to pop them in the freezer for about half an hour while I let my oven heat up. And again, baking things from frozen with the cut-in butter method like this, it just makes them have nice flaky layers and ensures that they're a little bit more tender. So we're gonna get started with that, and I'll meet you back when I have the oven ready. So my scones have been in the freezer for about half an hour. I turned my oven on to 400 while I was freezing them. They're not completely frozen, but they are very cold, so I think we'll be good. One thing I'm realizing is that I think I added too much buttermilk to my dough because it is a little too sticky. Using the whole wheat flour will definitely change how much liquid you need to add. So if you choose to go use all-purpose, it might even be a little bit different from what I'm doing, but after I bake them, we'll be able to tell if that's the truth. But either way, gonna be great. We're gonna pop them in the oven for between 15 and 20 minutes, just until they are nice and golden brown. I have a sheet tray here with parchment paper on it. You can also just spray your sheet tray, and we're gonna go in the oven. I'm gonna set my timer, and we'll be ready to bake these guys off. Here we go. Okay, we did it. These are scones. They're a little spready. You can see they didn't really hold their shape super well, and that's just because of the too much buttermilk. And you could probably also take the baking soda down just a little. But ooh, they're hot. Got some nice fat blueberries here, good color. I let them go for longer than the 20 minutes. It was probably 25 to 30, just because I wanted to make sure I got the right color on the top, which I believe that I did. It's also important to note that they're gonna spread, so make sure you have enough space in between them. At this point, I'm gonna pull them off this so they don't continue to get dark on the bottom, and if you want to add, you know, like a lemon glaze or something like that, you should feel free. I don't wanna do that, I just want the little sugar crunch on the top. So that's it for scones. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and please let me know how they turn out. Maybe yours won't spread so much, but be happy with them either way, you know, making progress, learning new stuff. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.